It's been 30 years since World Expo 88 transformed this once run-down stretch of the Brisbane River into what many will say was the happiest place on earth. Join me as we track down what's left of Brisbane's biggest party and meet the people who played their part in an iconic event which helped make Brisbane the city it is today.
It captured the imagination of the world.
Expo 88 is a coming of age for our city.
Tremendous expression of international goodwill.
Well, Expo had a kind of a magic property about it.
88, that was exciting.
The city was happy.
I know you like to call your state the Sunshine State, but I prefer to think of it by its original name, Queensland.
For Queensland, Expo was a turning point.
Nobody believed that we would ever even open Expo, let alone have a successful one.
Expo, though, I think certainly made us feel differently about ourselves.
Good for Brisbane, good for Queensland, good for Australia.
I now declare World Expo 88 well and truly open.
For 6 months, from April to October in 1988, Brisbane played host to a $625 million carnival. For 184 days, more than 18 million visitors filed through the turnstiles. That's more than the population of Australia at the time, and double what the organisers expected.
Step right up and discover all of the wonderful things there are to see and do in the Australian Pavilion, the Aussie PAM for short.
The theme for World Expo 88 was leisure in the age of technology. 36 countries took part, with 100 pavilions being the main drawcards. Around about here, roughly, is where one of the most popular pavilions stood, our very own. The Queensland display took visitors from the beach to the bush and back again. But like so much of Expo 88, it was torn down and left in a field at Beenleigh to rust, until some divine intervention. The famous Queensland Pavilion gifted a second chance of life as a church at Mackenzie in Brisbane South East.
Really excited as a church to be able to take this piece of history and to continue to use it as a great place for the people of Brisbane to come to.
In 1991, the church paid $250,000 to purchase the giant metal jigsaw.
Hundreds of volunteers over about an 18-month period helped out everything from putting windows back in to helping clean bits of steel and put bits of roof back together. It was one giant Meccano set, came here on 44 semi-trailers, and they just gradually put it back together.
While the inside has changed, the iconic white metal rafters are still in place. And on the outside, if you look closely, the original artwork which adorned the walls is still there.
What becomes of an Expo icon? I say this with the greatest respect, but I can't believe I'm sitting in the Queensland Pavilion all these years later.
Yeah, well, it's not quite as exciting as having a big crocodile jumping out at you like at Expo 88, but this is it's a great space that gets used a lot, particularly over the weekends, but actually gets used during the week, and great place for people to come together.
Queensland's catch cry during Expo was for everyone to join the spirit. So a second coming as a church for this pavilion seems to have been its natural calling. It's a fascinating historical treasure hunt to see where the bits and pieces of Expo 88 ended up. Mackay Airport is home to a tiger moth plane from Expo. The silo from the Primary Industries Pavilion is still in Bella Wheeler at the Queensland Heritage Park. And sitting on the Brisbane River, an old lady who's another iconic Expo relic.
The boat behind us is the Kookaburra Queen II, born and it went its first cruise in April 30th, the opening day of Expo, and the timing was magnificent. There's a big crowd on the riverbank, and all of a sudden, about a third of the way through the presentation, my Kookaburra Queen II sailed past.
Gary Balkin brought the two Kookaburra Queens to Brisbane, where there was rarely a spare seat during the lunch and dinner cruises in the 6 months of Expo. The original site of South Bank is still home to a few World Expo 88 buildings. The Plough Inn, the Ship Inn and the Nepalese Peace Pagoda. And very close to its original location is the Sky Needle.
And of course, you can't talk about the Sky Needle unless you talk to this man, Stefan. How are you, mate?
Hi, Rupert.
Does it seem like yesterday, or does it seem a long time ago?
Seems like yesterday, but so much has happened, you know.
Stefan came to the rescue and quite literally bought the Sky Needle overnight to prevent the Expo monument from moving to Tokyo Disneyland.
So you can't do that to the Sky Needle, and I became a bit carried away, and the rest is history. We have a lot of great things, but we don't have. We're not old enough to have monuments and sculptures and great landmarks. And this was one of the greatest moments in Brisbane Expo, and I feel honoured and proud. And I was only able to do it because of my friends who helped me.
Yeah, we need legacies, and the Sky Needle and Vision are a magnificent legacy of a magnificent chapter in our history.
Absolutely.
Expo 88.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stefan.
Coming up after the break, the fight to save the iconic World Expo 88 sculptures. Chances are, if you visited Expo 88, you had your photo taken with at least one of the sculptures.
Part of the work of the 30th anniversary is to really rebirth the connections to all this beautiful art that is in Brisbane.
Many are tucked away in unlikely spots, like this sculpture, now a mere curiosity on a morning walk or bike ride in Victoria Park, which was once viewed by millions.
We need to know the story of these 8 rocks.
It is a little bit like Stonehenge. It's actually in the form of a man, and I'm really keen to see these go into the Brisbane Expo 88 art trial, because at the moment this is probably one of Brisbane's most unknown tourist attractions.
Others, like Pomodoro's Forms of Myth, are passed by thousands of cars a day on Turbot Street in the city.
The Pomodoro sculptures are world class. You know, Pomodoro's work is in Moscow and Milan, all sorts of places, and we have them here in Brisbane.
Under the Story Bridge, dotted around the CBD of Brisbane, at Kangaroo Point, in front of the State Library, and in many of our city parks, there they stand. A lasting reminder of Expo 88. Sally Ann Atkinson was Brisbane's Lord Mayor during the heyday of Expo 88. Life was one VIP function after another, and the former Lord Mayor's photo albums make fascinating viewing.
Sally Ann, we're in the Queensland State Library, the White Glove Room. It feels very important, and some of your important artefacts are here now as well, from Expo.
Actually, I'm smiling about the idea of the white gloves, because these have been in my garage for the last 20 years or so.
Expo is our opportunity to show off to the world, to invite other nations to witness, to share, to enjoy the exciting and dynamic city that is Brisbane.
For the former Lord Mayor, Expo was the turning point for Queensland and Brisbane, no longer the Cinderella state.
The opening ceremony was a highlight because there we were, we had done it, the Queen was there. You know, I looked out at the stage and the great and the good were all ranged in front of us. I was slightly upset because I was wearing a red hat and the Queen was wearing pink, and I thought our colours might clash.
Today, Lord Mayor Graham Quirk is custodian of the artistic legacy dotted around the streets of Brisbane.
What we want to do, of course, is to make sure that we don't forget the history or lose the history. And so, you know, if you're going to know where you're going, you've got to know where you've been. And Expo is a critical part of the maturing of this city to what we have today.
As part of the 30th anniversary, the work Showdown will be relocated from the Entertainment Centre at Boondall to Gregory Terrace. Peter Racy is one of those leading the charge to revitalise interest in our Expo artworks, in particular, the very popular lifelike human factor pieces.
It'd just be a crying shame to see that little magic connection to our history lost.
It's believed they've travelled as far as farm sheds in Cairns to libraries in Rockhampton, with many sitting in storage to this day.
And we're finding them, restoring them, and getting them back out there on public display.
Coming up after the break, the talented performers who kept the crowds entertained.
The Ship Inn is one of the only original remaining buildings of Expo 88. It was a favourite place for the much-loved performers to meet up each night after a day's work, and still this tight-knit group of friends get together every year and reminisce.
There were a number of people from different parts of the world, so everyone was looking to do things. So that you know how they used to say it was a big party. It really was. It really was.
Audiences were treated over the 6 months to a $42 million program of entertainment. Members of the 65-strong marching band, like Daryl Bowers, are still playing together to this day and still having a ball.
I was in the percussion, the drum line, and with the marching band, the 65-piece marching band. It was great. So this is the jacket's shrunk a bit over the years, like a glove.
There hadn't been a band like that in Australia before, and they were embraced with standing ovations every day. Expo was Tony Laffin's first gig in the entertainment business. He knew 3 magic acts and did them thousands of times a day amidst the never-ending queues.
I was Captain Starship, representing Ansett. It was the children's mascot, and Ansett sponsored the United Nations Pavilion. So I had blue hair and silver eyeshadow, which was my first job as a performer. And my dad was a builder, so he was very confused.
One thing about Expo that I've noticed, wherever you go there's some activity, and right through this parade today there are people cartwheeling and doing backflips.
And I was lucky enough to be cast as one of the performers in the Parades Ensemble. The Parades Ensemble was a nighttime and a lunchtime parade that for half an hour wound its way up the whole site.
Certainly technically Expo was extraordinary with the lights and the lasers and a lot of the cutting edge stuff we were doing then. The street performers were really, really important.
Off the back of his success with the 1982 Commonwealth Games and LA Olympics, Expo's Director of Entertainment, Rick Birch, brought in producers like David Hamilton to find spellbinding acts from Australia and across the world.
We had 10 shows a day every day for 6 months from all around the world, and Rick Birch wanted everything from wood chopping. We had the Chinese acrobats, we had the World Ballroom dancing, we had BMX, we had a full-time dance company, and then trapeze acts, just amazing. There was nothing we couldn't put in the piazza, and it was always standing room only, and a wonderful part of the entertainment that put Brisbane and Australia on the map.
And we came over here to look at Expo. We love it so far. We've been in a few pavilions. Been in a Cadbury pavilion.
Yes. We've been in all the pavilions that Angel can fit in.
Dig deep enough in the garages and cupboards and the mementos are still there.
How did it go at the nightclubs afterwards?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah. Met my wife for this. Still wear it, only on Friday night.
So there was 3 of these wonderful Kiwi puppets that were part of the dance act, and that's the only souvenir I've kept from the dance company, and because of my involvement with puppetry. So she survived 30 years.
Perhaps the most popular of all the Expo shows was the Aquacade.
I don't think we had any concept of what it was actually going to be like. I think when we were all learning the show, we'd never seen a Cirque du Soleil at that point, or any of those kind of productions. So it was a precursor to those sort of shows.
So you had a blank canvas,
yeah,
basically.
yeah. So when it took off, we were shocked.
They had this stadium for 3,000 people, and they were concerned that they wouldn't fill it. There was 3,000 in every show, plus another 3,000 outside waiting to get in. It was that incredibly busy. It was such a fantastic experience and such a fantastic show.
Each and every one of these performers continued their careers in the entertainment industry.
We went to Hong Kong with the show for another 2 months there, and yeah, fabulous.
Yeah, well, we've all, the 3 of us, we've all had international careers.
Yeah.
And it really started with this experience.
At World Expo 88, Brisbane finally began dining outdoors and proved it could party and dance.
So I did do the chicken dance.
The thing that stuck with me was the chicken dance. You know, that was the one thing you did learn at Expo, was to do that. And it's no surprise that today we have Brisbane as the top 10 Oktoberfests in the world.
Coming up after the break, Mr. Expo 88 himself makes an emotional donation. Kingaroy isn't exactly the place you'd expect to come to talk all things Expo 88, but here in this house, there's a treasure trove of memorabilia.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you.
Jason Ford was training to become a chef at what is now South Bank TAFE as Expo was being built, and a lifelong fascination began.
I really did watch it go from nothing to being a completed event.
Like most people his age, Jason saved up to buy a season pass.
So in 1988, when it opened, I was there for the opening ceremony.
But this love of Expo goes far beyond keeping his season pass and passport. Jason is digitally preserving World Expo 88 for future generations in an online museum.
I started thinking that that particular event happened in a time where there was no internet, there was no social media, so there really was very little digital footprint available for people to admire the legacy of what was achieved.
While he's bought a number of items himself, many have come to him from other avid collectors.
The mascot, Expo Oz, he appeared on more than 500 items, so really the items are in the thousands. So I'm not even close at the moment, but who knows, I might get there one day.
Jason's hard work will be on show from the 30th of April at the Kingaroy Heritage Museum.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please put your hands together for our fearless leader? We love him, Sir Llew Edwards.
World Expo 88 and the name Sir Llew Edwards just go hand in hand. The chairman was the face of the carnival for many of us.
We've captured the imagination of the world, and I think we just sold Expo to Australia. They wanted to own it, and they wanted to be here to be part of that success.
These days, Sir Llew makes few media appearances, but he made the exception for his beloved World Expo 88.
We did it by two things. One, a great team. The people that I appointed, they were wonderful. Right down to the cleaners, everybody did their job. And then there was a pride about this event. And above all, I'm going to say this, I met my darling wife.
There she is in red at the grand opening as the ribbon was cut. Lady Edwards was the communications manager of Expo 88.
I think Llew has a magic with people where he's warm and they see it. And so, yes, our days are full of lovely people getting in touch and stopping him for a chat.
The Edwards wanted to hand over 4 of the final items from their own personal Expo collection to the City of Brisbane.
Well, Sir Llew, thank you very, very much indeed, not only for these artefacts, but, you know, this city is going to be forever grateful for the contribution you made as leader of World Expo 88. It was the game-changing event. So thank you very, very much, Sir Llew.
It's my pleasure, and thank you and your predecessors. We've all worked together to make Brisbane the city of the world.
Absolutely. Some treasured memories here too.
I think it does bring a lot of things to a conclusion in a very happy way. I think this may be perhaps Llew's last appearance, and you know, it's just very nice to be able to move into old age, looking back on your life, I think in his case, and looking at all the things you've done and knowing that you've really done your best and done well.
The carnival is now over. Expo 88 has come to a close.
Somehow or other, a few of us got this vision that we should show the world. And then, if we can show the world, we're going to show Australia. We'll never forget every moment of World Expo 88 in Brisbane. This carnival is over.
But not forgotten.
Not forgotten. It was lovely.
For the carnival
mention Expo all these years later to anyone who was lucky enough to have visited, chances are it will instantly bring a smile to their face, and then the stories will start to flow. I hope we've brought a smile to your face today, and you've enjoyed taking a step back to a time and a place when the greatest problem you had in life was how long you had to queue for the New Zealand and Queensland pavilions. Thanks for your company. Take care.